We're back. It's been a few months. Welcome back, DP Pod. I've been working on TikTok. It's popping. Go check it out. That's why I haven't been on here. But we're back. Football season is coming like a train. And we're going to get into a lot of the training camp stuff. But first, we have to do a couple NBA things because the NBA has been completely shaken up. LeBron James, a Philadelphia 76er. Would have never thought that would have happened. 2018, they thought it could happen, and then less than a day later, he signed with the Lakers. That was never going to happen. And I feel indifferent about it. Now, don't get me wrong. Would you rather have LeBron James, the basketball player, on your team than not? Yes. I'll keep the off the field things and, everything else about the non basketball player away from this video because as a basketball player, even at 42 years old, I mean, what an addition you can have. Not in a million years would I think that we would get LeBron James on the Sixers. Big superstars don't pick the Sixers to sign as free agents to. It just normally doesn't happen. But he's going to be the point guard essentially. I think that's huge for Maxey, getting him off the ball a little bit more. He is a great off ball player. Obviously, the big question marks, Jaylen Brown, new addition. Joel Embiid, how much is he going to play? We don't know. We don't know how much he's going to play. We know it's not going to be the full season. However, when you can add somebody for $4 million a year for maybe 2 years, at LeBron James' stature, still top 10 to 15 NBA players still in the game, you probably one of the top 5 to 10 players one of the top 5 players you'd want for a one game scenario. The Sixers are in a really, really interesting spot. The best starting five they've had in my lifetime. I think the most recent one was probably the J.J. Redick Ben Simmons one back in 2019 when they lost to the eventual champion Raptors. Funny enough, every time they've been in the playoffs, they've lost to the eventual champions. But nonetheless, it is going to be a crazy year. I think they are right in contention. It is the very end of June. I am not going to say that they are the favorite in the East right now. I can't say that. Catch me back early October, maybe my tune changes. You got to give respect to the Knicks. Pacers got to the championship the previous year. Obviously, Tyrese Halliburton was hurt. They added some pieces of Zubac. Who knows? But they are definitely in contention in the Eastern Conference, no doubt. And I think as of a couple days ago, I haven't checked today, they were tied with the Knicks for Eastern Conference odds. This will be the most excited I've been for a Sixer season in years. Don't get me wrong, the last few seasons it's been like, all right, well, I love Maxey, but we're going to see how this works out, and it could be a circus, it could be a great show, but everyone will be watching. They're going to have the most primetime games that any team can have. I think it's like 34 or 35. And yeah, it's gonna be an interesting 2026, 2027 season when they start up. The other NBA story I had to touch on is Steph Curry. Reports are coming out that Steph Curry and the Warriors, more so the Warriors, are not on Steph's timeline anymore. Now, honestly, I don't think they've been on Steph's timeline, to be completely honest, since the KD years, since KD left. Because, yes, they won the championship in 2022. Every team has luck. I'm not going to say they lucked into it, but that team was not part of that dynasty or the early dynasty. Yeah, it had remnants of it. Clay was still, solid. Draymond obviously still there. But it wasn't the same team. And since then, they have not really pursued any. I can't even say pursued. They have not landed or been in major contact with a lot of these big stars that have come available. And it's catching up to them now at this point. Obviously they had Jimmy Butler. They tried that. That hasn't worked to this point, and I don't think it will work at his age and stage of his career. So now the time is coming for Steph Curry to ask for a trade out of Golden State. It's going to be tough. He's the last guy. He's the last guy of the superstars of the generation that Stayed with one team. And maybe he will stay with the Warriors for the rest of his career. But at that point, it would probably only be a couple years. Because I still think he has 5 to 6 MVP esque, MVP type seasons left in him. But what's the point of wasting it in a place where you're not even competing for championships? They're over under, I think it's 40, 41 and a half. That's, they're barely a playoff team. So I wrote down a list of all the teams that I think would be beneficial to trade for Steph Curry. I have 8 teams down here. I'll just list them all out and then I'll go over the big ones. Miami, Houston, Atlanta, San Antonio, Detroit, Orlando, Denver, Dallas. That's 8 teams. What do I have? 3 Eastern Conference? No, 4 and 4. I have 4 Eastern, 4 Western Conference. I think he would prefer to stay in the West, but we just saw LeBron go from Los Angeles to maybe he's living in New York, but Philadelphia. So would he stay? Would he go east? Would he go east? Would he ask for a trade east? The guys I have, Miami, it would obviously be Steph and LeBron. Steph and Giannis, they've been linked together for a few years at this point, just like Steph and LeBron had. That would be a very interesting duo. I mean, they'd probably have to give up Bam in that trade. I don't know if they make that work. The draft picks are going to have to be involved with all these teams. I don't think they're going to take back many, you know, NBA players per se, NBA star esque. So Miami's an option. Atlanta, they have a lot of young pieces. That might be interesting to Golden State. I think that would be interesting for Steph. I think Atlanta is an upcoming team. Imagine if Steph brought them to contention. They made a conference finals a few years back with Trae Young, but if he brings them to the conference finals, if they get to the NBA finals with Steph Curry, I mean, does that lift Steph near the top 5 all time? Centers excluded maybe. That's an interesting spot. Detroit, Cade and Steph. I mean, that would Steph off ball. We know how that works. That probably at the Jalen Duren sign and trade, I'd assume. Whenever they sign him. And Orlando, that might be the least interesting of all the places, but Paolo or Franz, would one of them go in the trade? Paolo or Franz? I don't know. That'd be somewhat interesting. They're probably lower on my list of teams that I think he would fit well with. And the Western Conference teams, it's kind of limited. I feel like there's more options in the Eastern Conference, in my opinion. Is there any chance of a KD Houston reunion? A KD reunion with Steph? I don't know. Uh, It'd be interesting. You could get Sengun. You could probably do Jabari Smith. You got some pieces to work with there. I wrote them down. Obviously, I don't think that Golden State would send him to San Antonio and pair him up with Wemby. I don't see that happening. We've seen crazier things, I guess, in NBA trades, but I don't see them potentially creating the next dynasty, even though I don't think there is a current NBA dynasty or will be for some time. But man, Steph and Wemby. Who else do I got? Oh, Denver. I mean, Steph and Jokic. That might be the best fit that Steph could go to. Enough said. I don't know if again, I don't know if you can make a Jamal Murray trade work. And Dallas, they got some young players. Do you somehow flip a Kyrie, get a third team involved? Cooper Flag and Steph helping out. Cooper, taking a little bit of the point guard role, the point forward role off of Cooper Flag. I think that'd be beneficial for his growth, potentially. I think the best basketball fit is probably Denver with Jokic. I think that would be insane to watch. Jokic and Curry play together. The best basketball fit, I think it might be Atlanta. I, I just said basketball fit. No, Denver and Atlanta, I think, are the best basketball fits for Steph Curry in different ways. But who do I think he would get traded to? I have no idea. We'll see if he plays this year out with Golden State. I do think the rosters are kind of ready made at this point. LeBron was one of the last dominoes to fall. I guess Harden hasn't re-signed yet. We expect him to re-sign with Cleveland. So I think this is probably Steph Curry's last year in Golden State. That's all the NBA I got because we got to go on to football. That's the important stuff. It's coming down the tracks faster than we can imagine. Faster than we can imagine. Jameer Gibbs and Bijan Robinson, however you say his name, I think that's how you say it now. Both holding in, both superstar running backs, both the potential, even the consensus number 1 and 2 picks in fantasy football. I do think both these guys are going to sign. There's rumors that Atlanta may not want to sign Bijan Robinson. I don't see how they don't. He these guys are just more than running backs. They're pass catchers. They change the way defenses have to play against you. They make you think extra. And especially Jameer Gibbs with that Lions offense, he's been the core of that offense. Yes, they have Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, Jared Goff's been there for a while now at this point, but Jameer Gibbs is what makes this offense go. And the same goes to say about Robinson. Obviously they are not as talented overall as Detroit. They don't have a great quarterback situation. They don't have much of a quarterback situation at this point. Penix and Tua both hurt. They're bringing in Cooper Rush. I think they have some undrafted guys as well. They almost are going to be forced to pay Bijan Robinson because of the lack of offensive stardom. Even though they do have Drake London and Kyle Pitts, both very good players. But the quarterback situation is just not really there, and they haven't been a competitive team for the most part over the last decade. But I do think these guys are both going to get signed in the next week or so, I'd have to guess. I can't imagine this lingers through till the end of training camp or till even the near end of training camp. Now we got to get into Jalen Carter. Biggest contract for a defensive tackle in NFL history. But it's not even just that. It's not even just that. How about the contract extension with now void years? 4 void years. Look at his cap hit. Look at his cap hit. 9 million, 9.5 million, 15, 23, and I think it's like a $68 million voided salary of some sort. Like I'm still kind of learning the nuances of the NFL contracts, and I got two thoughts on this. Howie Roseman's a fucking genius. That's obvious. At the same time, this kind of, in a way, this is like baseball for me, and I'm going to be consistent on it. I am not going to be biased. When I talk about the Dodgers and their deferred contracts, what have I said? I've said I don't like it, but the rules allow it at this point. And anything you can do within the rules, within the legality of the sport, I think in order to win, you have to do. It's almost an obligation as a front office. And the Dodgers have done that, and that's why they've won 2 straight, and they're looking for a 3rd championship in a row. Same goes said here for the Eagles. They are one of those teams that manipulate the cap so well. Howie has his guys. They know exactly what they're doing. But should this be limited? Probably. I'll be as consistent as I can. That they should. I'm not saying that they shouldn't have void years, and I don't know what the strategy is to go around that or to change the rules. But pushing deferred money down the road years and years and years and avoiding cap space, avoiding the cap issues, is that good for the sport overall? I don't know. I don't think it is. It's a little different in baseball because there is no salary cap. And not even that. It's not even that there's no salary cap. It's that those teams at the bottom won't pay that money anyway. So the Dodgers are like, we'll pay it. There is a salary cap in the NFL. We'll see what happens in Major League Baseball in the next 12 to 18 months. Regardless, Howie's a fucking smart guy. And the Eagles continue to be one of the top teams, franchises, organizations in all of sports, especially the NFL. Cannot wait. Can't wait for the Eagles. Everything around camp right now is, Sean Mannion's an evil genius, according to Jordan Mailata. 100% alignment, no entitlement from Jalen Hurts. Playing under center, throwing over the middle, motion, pre-snap motion. Everything that we didn't have last year. I just named all those things that were either lacking or we didn't have last year. So, very excited for the upcoming season. I think they are going to be Super Bowl contenders. I'm not going to say favorites in the NFC. The Rams have a say. Seahawks lost some players, but obviously they won the Super Bowl last year. They got to be respected. Bears are going to be tough if they take another step. There's a lot of good teams in the NFC. I'm not ready to say they are the favorites, but man, if you're a Sixers and Eagles fan right now, it's going to be a fun next year. It is going to be a fun 2026, 2027, in my opinion. And the last thing I want to do, we'll get into the longer episodes in the future. I think I want to do a Thursday night football and Sunday slate episode, and then a Monday Monday night football. Wrapping up the week. So I want to do two episodes a week. That's the plan. Today's Friday, June 31st. But once we get closer, probably next week, if not the following, while we're getting ready for predictions and getting ready for the NFL season, we're going to do 2 episodes a week. I want to try to bring on a couple people so you don't just hear me yap for 20 minutes, 40 minutes at a time with no break. Even though I like to listen to myself talk about sports, who knows if everyone else does. But we like conversation. We like all this insight. But instead of me just talking, let's go to Baker. This is really interesting. Obviously he didn't get his extension. There's a lot of stuff going, a lot of bad stuff. We talk about the Eagles' great vibes, complete opposite of what's going on in Tampa Bay. Vita Vea wants out. He's got an injury, quote unquote. Baker ended his contract extension talks because they didn't want to give him what he thought he deserved. And let's take a listen to Baker.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I've told you guys I've been pretty upfront and honest about my feelings about Tampa. It being home for now our family. We're raising kids here. We love it here. I wanted the deal done and set the deadline and told them it was going to be all ball after that. And I did mean that. And I don't know if they thought I was just going to take some of the offers that they gave, but I'm at the point of my career and understanding what I've brought to this franchise. One, I'm very, very thankful for the chance they gave me. Do not get me wrong on that. But I really know what I've brought to this franchise, leadership-wise, and even play-wise. It's been some of the best years of my career, and I think it's only going to trend upwards, just being comfortable and feeling that. So disappointing in that regard to not have, to feel disrespected a little bit. And that's really the disappointing part, to feel undervalued after, thinking you've earned it. This is not a poor me thing. There's a lot of other people that have it way worse off, but I can sit here and look at other quarterbacks and peers and evaluate myself based on that and put myself in certain categories that I deserve to be compensated for that. And I think I'm a franchise quarterback. I've been told I'm a franchise quarterback. It's been said publicly from ownership down here. And so to not have a deal done is very disappointing. But I said the deadline was a deadline. And I addressed the team to let them know I meant that. It's all ball. I'm with these guys. I think all the guys that have been here know exactly who I am. The guys that are new here, I wanted to address that because they might have had a notion prior to coming here about who I am as a person. But it's all team. It's all about winning here now and what we're going to do. And, hopefully Vita gets his back fixed and gets his deal done. I mean, he's the second longest tenured Buck behind CG, and Vita deserves that. He's the anchor of our defense, and so I hope they take care of him. It's disappointing to say the least, but it's all ball here, and I know I'm going to have a good year. I know.
Yeah, so we kind of get the idea. The Baker said a lot there. But it's funny to see Baker over his whole career. He was known as kind of immature coming into the league in Cleveland. Brought them out of, what they have, like 3 wins in like 2 years. Got them to a playoff, won a playoff game. They kind of bailed on them, injuries. They thought they could do better. Signed Deshaun Watson to that massive contract. And now he's in a quarterback battle with Shedeur Sanders. So we see how Cleveland's doing. But regardless, we've seen Baker grow from, at the same point, grow from a kind of slightly immature young kid in the league to, sounding a lot more mature in his later years, in the league. But at the same time, he still has the same confidence, not the same ego, but he attacks the game the exact same way. He attacks the media, almost in the same way. Of like, look, I know what I am. My team knows what I am. It's all business though. He is a team guy for sure. Regardless of this contract situation, I understand why he wants. This is the last year of his deal. I've kind of changed my tune a little bit over the last day or so. A couple days or so. A lot of injuries to a lot of these teams in this division. Carolina, New Orleans, big defensive players getting hurt. I was thinking about maybe taking the Saints to win that division. I think this is probably still the Bucks division to lose. I know Carolina won it last year. I don't believe in Carolina long term. But I don't really know if I believe in the Bucks long term either. But I think by default they probably are going to win this division again. But nonetheless, let's say they win the division 9-8, 8-9, 9-8, even 10 wins, and they get bounced in the first round of the playoffs. They look overmatched. I'm still sticking to this. I do think this. I think if they have a disappointing season, whether it's 8, 9, 10 wins and a playoff loss or whatnot, missing the playoffs in general, I think this is Todd Bowles' last season as the Tampa Bay head coach, and potentially this is Baker Mayfield's last season as the Bucks quarterback. We'll see what happens if they offer 55 million a year for 3 years, he may stay. But he definitely feels disrespected, and I don't blame him for feeling that way. He's put his body on the line for that team. Like, he's been the exact same player, essentially, ego wise, mentality wise, his whole career. He's been doubted a ton. Obviously, a lot of the top quarterbacks honestly were, even if they were first overall picks, first round picks. I mean, Jared Goff got traded for Matt Stafford. He's the first overall pick. All these guys get doubted. Mahomes was a first round. Was he a 10th pick? He got doubted. All these guys get doubted. I don't blame him for feeling that way. I like Baker. I used to have this debate with someone I worked with. He was the Baker guy, and I was the Sam Darnold guy. And honestly, we both I think we both won that. Maybe more so me recently with the Sam Darnold winning the championship. But both guys are franchise quarterbacks in this league. They've both dug themselves out of really big holes, and they're both on the same Carolina team at one point. So he's had to prove himself in Carolina. He's had to prove himself with Cleveland. I'm not going to say the Rams as much. They had Stafford, but regardless, he's had to prove himself, and he should be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers quarterback for the near future. But only time will tell. And yeah, can't wait to get into the game soon. Predictions. I'm heating them up in the lab right now. I'm cooking, trying to see who's making playoffs, who's missing. I think it's like 4 to 5 teams a year, 4 to 5 new playoff teams a year in the NFL. That's going to be interesting. I'm trying to make that work. At least like 4 new teams, maybe two each conference. But thank you for listening to me rant. I think that was episode 7. We will be back in a few days with episode 8. Hopefully with some more NFL content for sure. And then MLB trade deadline. I am not the expert at all the guys who are definitely going to get traded. But by the time we have our next episode, I have a feeling we'll have some more trades. I saw the Mets traded for AJ Minter, which is kind of concerning for Philadelphia because that probably means that they're not selling and they're not going to sell on Byron Buxton. I see they're talking to the Blue Jays. Who knows? Definitely will have more to say on my next episode. Trade deadline is August 3rd. And we are getting into the thick of it at the end of July, heading to August and September. We're getting into football season. Thank you guys for listening. And we will be back with another episode sooner than you know. Thank you.